Welcome to Culture Climate, presented by STC. Company culture is complex, like trying to track down Sasquatch. We're here to dive into the belly of the beast. Join us for first-hand stories from leaders, along with transformative ideas and insights impacting organizations and people. Ready to climb it? Let the journey begin. Well, welcome back to the Culture Climate Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Brins, and today I'm here with Justin Nunn, who is the president of Sirius Building Company. Welcome, Justin.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So, we're on the show, we're talking about culture, and we're really talking about all different opinions and beliefs about organizational culture and all that comes with it. We know that it's important, but it's hard to wrap your hands around because it means something different to every single person or every single leader. From your perspective, Justin, I know you've been with various companies throughout the years in construction, large, small. What have been some culture differentiators that you can pinpoint in your time, in your career?
Yeah, I would say a lot of times when I've seen great culture, either at Sirius or companies before, it's always, at least having a group that can collaborate, feels almost like a family environment, get along well, everybody has good vibes, that kind of thing. And it really helps during the workday to be able to get along with these people and have this great culture amongst everybody.
Yeah, so I want to hit on that, Justin, because that's something I think that a lot of companies are shooting for. A lot of leaders want to cultivate that environment. As part of culture, there's a lot of features of cultures, which could be, having cool stuff in the office, having get-togethers as a company. But when you're really trying to distinguish like what your company is known for, what are some of those key elements that you can point to?
Yeah, so I would say, when we're interviewing people, we're looking almost at this point more for a cultural fit, and the way we're telling them basically is how our culture is and trying to see if it matches with them is just we try to be a family environment. Some ways we make that happen is we have kind of a 3:00 wind down once a month where we get everybody to show up to the office or meet out at a bar or go to some sort of bowling or something like that. We try to have some sort of activity during work hours so it's not interrupting people with young kids and sports and everything going on.
Yeah.
And, just let people collaborate. And sometimes we even put them on teams where we've got estimators with field guys and superintendents with the office manager and, just try to get everybody to know each other, understand each other, have a good time together. That's some of what we do. And then we really try to give people at Sirius some autonomy as well. Like, I don't like micromanaging people. I don't want to have to micromanage anybody. And, all the layers we have at Sirius, which isn't a lot, we really try to strive to not have micromanagement. If you got to go somewhere, if you got to cut out early, go do something with your kids or go handle something personally or whatever, just take care of your business.
Yeah.
And no one's going to ride you about it. And I think people appreciate that. And that kind of plays into the culture of trust in a family environment.
Yeah.
It's just, those are some of the couple things that come to my mind.
No, those are great. And I actually like them because there's like two ends of the spectrum there. There's like the desire to want to facilitate autonomy for your employees, but then you understand the importance of bringing people together and helping them understand the different departments of the organization. So you were talking about some of those different events, like pairing up people that are in different departments. Can you speak specifically to that with what you've seen in your career, just with like the idea of silos in organizations and how that can impact the culture?
For sure. So one thing I've seen on repeat, and I know anyone in the construction industry can say the same thing, is there's almost this like internal struggle at a company of pre-construction and estimators versus field guys, right? So the pre-construction guys, they have a couple weeks to look at a set of plans, try to scope it out, get all it bought out just right, turn in a bid, try to win the work. And that may need a low sub, that may need, a lot of different elements. And then when the field team takes it over, they might notice for 6-8 months, there's a miss or there's a problem or there's just a scope gap. And so they're obviously angry at the estimating team missed this thing or whatever. And it's like, I don't think they understand the pressure those guys are put under. They have 2-3 weeks to try to bid this thing and do the best they can. And then also the field teams, I hear from the estimators all the time, like, you just hate every person we give them. Like, that sub's terrible, and that sub's terrible, and this sub's terrible. But that sub does a great job on the bid team side a lot of times, and they've given us the right price to help us win the work.
Yeah.
So, and then the estimators feel like they're just getting crapped on by the field team sometimes, and the field teams feel like the estimators aren't trying hard enough. And I've heard, and I've been in both departments in different aspects of my career, and I've been the field guy that's like, oh, the estimating team screwed us, and the estimators are like, it's a field problem, let them deal with it.
Yeah.
So just with that thing in general, there's just this natural element, right? So we really do at Sirius try to get some of the field guys to come in and, hey, be on a couple 2 or 3 bids, see what it's like, see what the pressures are like. And then the same with the estimators. They actually run small job, like really baby jobs, talking like $50,000 type jobs or whatever. We'll have them run a few of them, and they'll see some of the struggles or why this sub is so bad or whatever it is. And that way, and then they can all talk and feel a little more free to, they're collaborating in different ways, and they can get a better understanding of each other. And I think that improves our culture, because then everyone can work together and they enjoy each other more, and they see where each other's coming from.
Yeah. So I want to go back to, you guys are really looking at who you're bringing on and some of those qualities. And so what characteristic or like personal trait do you think, as you were talking about having to understand other people, like what critical trait are you looking for in people that can adapt and kind of meet what you're looking for?
Yeah, I would say, number one, almost team player. They have to be somebody that can work in a team. And a lot of people could say they can work in a team, but a lot of times in an interview, you can drill in on some questions and kind of see if they're just like an outlier and they're just going to do their own thing and however they want to do it. Or sometimes you can drill that out of people. So we look for that. We'll ask a lot of questions in an interview about, what do you do when you're stressed or when you run into a stressful situation, or you've had a problem with a sub, or you've had a problem with a coworker? And sometimes their answers there can kind of really tell, like, that's not going to work culturally for us.
Yeah.
So I think just trying to ask a lot of questions. That's what we do. We kind of have some standard questions, but our goal is whatever their answers are, to start drilling in on those answers and try to get a better feel of exactly, you can say anything on one question, but when you start getting drilled into on multiple questions, it'll come out like, are you kind of culturally where we think you need to be or not? And we've had misses on that.
Sure.
Honestly, we've had some toxic employees in the past, and we've learned from that we have to hire more culturally, even if we've got to pull that person up to the role we need them to be. If they have the basic skills and they fit culturally, it's almost better for us than someone that's just has all the skills there, all the tool set, but just is going to just cause wakes through the company and with our clients and everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that keeps coming up as we talk to more leaders, is just that the intangibles, which really tie back to the company's core values, and really defining what those core values are to the leadership of the company, which should trickle down to even new hires that are coming on board, is not only they see, we've got our core values posted up on our wall, but like, do people really know the definition of those core values? And does it really align with their personality and how they're showing up to work each day? So, are there any core values that you guys have at Sirius Building Company that you're really passionate about, or that you could really define or talk more to?
Yeah, that's a interesting topic for us, because we are big on core values. We have them printed on the back of our cards. I actually had a client grill me on it the other day. I handed them a card, and they were asking like, what does this core value mean to you? What does this core value mean to you? And I thought that was very interesting of them. He said, like, I wanted to ask you these things just to see if you just had them printed on your card or if they actually meant something, right? So one of our core values is guiding light. And what that one really means to us is, we're trying to, a lot of times the clients, they don't understand the process. They don't know what's going on. I mean, I have clients that they hand us a set of plans and are like, can you get this to us tomorrow? They don't realize how many people are involved, the subs and their vendors and so on and so forth. And it takes a couple of weeks to kind of put all this back together. So the guiding light is really about trying to explain the processes, setting their expectations, helping them along. Even if they're having problems with their designer or with their banker or whatever it is, we can try to help guide them on that because we've dealt with a lot of these situations. Talk to their banker, talk to their designer. Let's do something. Let's collaborate. That's one of our big ones. We really want to help our clients out, and it takes above and beyond because it's I think a lot of people, they know what they're doing in their role in construction, and you almost can't put yourself in the layman's perspective sometimes, and that's what we're trying to do is help them with that.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. The guiding light. If I recall from your logo, you got that little star up there. I don't know if that's kind of
that. I mean, it sort of is a play on. So Sirius is the brightest star in the northern hemisphere, the Sirius star.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So yeah, that's a lot of the way when we came up with the name for Sirius, we wanted to have something that was more meaningful than just people's names or whatever, which, that's great if you want to do that. But that's what we did. And so that's why that star's there. And we're trying to aspire to that. We want to be the bright star. We want to really do a great job for our clients. And it's almost back to that culture thing. Like if we don't have the right cultural fit, they don't care about those things. They treat the client like they're an idiot. I mean, I've seen it, and you don't even catch it as it's happening sometimes because the employee will just tell you, like, I'm telling the client, I'm trying to, let them know what's going on and help them out, and come to talk to the client. They're just, not being that guiding light for them. They're not trying to really help them out. And because other companies, they come from other companies, they have different cultures where, some companies are like, hey, take it or leave it. We're building this. You hired us. This is how we're going to do it. Get out of our way. I don't even want to talk to you really. And we want that more personal approach with our clients. And most of our clients appreciate that. So.
Yeah. No, thank you for telling us more about your name. I was just thinking, it's a serious type of endeavor that you guys do in construction, but that brings a whole new meaning.
And it's fun. I mean, when we came up with the name, we were like, this is so fun because it's, now we can say seriously, right? And it's spelled different. It's spelled like the star, like the radio Sirius radio. It's not spelled like serious, like I'm very serious, but seriously, why so serious? We use all these little catchphrases and put them on shirts, put them on hashtags, that kind of thing. Our social media does. So it's just something fun, but the point of it is to be more meaningful and try to aspire to that.
Yeah. I love that. I love, the idea of a guiding light, which is, I think, what everyone hopes for, or if they're enduring a big project, or if they're going through a serious, situation in their life or a challenging situation, we all need like kind of that guiding light.
Right.
And so I'm curious for you all at Sirius, how do you guys cultivate that environment? You were telling me about you guys meet like once a quarter. Can you talk more about how you're trying to cultivate this mentality of being a guiding light?
Yeah, sure. So when you're saying meet once a quarter, I mean, so we have this company, we call it a happy hour, but it could be a number of things, right? Not everybody at our company drinks, so we try to be mindful of that, of like, hey, let's do something that's just fun. Like one of the things we did is we shut down the office for 2-3 hours, went out in a field across the street and watched the eclipse, which I think a lot of people did that. It was just something fun and different, and just kind of hang out. And some people could make it, some of the field guys couldn't. Traffic was supposed to be bad that day, but so we try to do that once a month. And again, we try to do it during business hours so it doesn't take away from people's home lives. And sometimes it tailspins staying out a little later, or a smaller group might hang out longer or whatever, and that's great. But kind of how that goes into, I don't know if that exactly extrapolates into guiding light. The core value.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really more for the client, but one of our core values is excellent employee experience.
Okay.
So I think it would tie to that a lot more.
Got it.
And so again, we're trying to just keep that family environment.
Yeah.
Do some events like that. We typically have done a family picnic in the past. A couple times we've done it at, there's a park in Little Elm that's right on the lake that it's big park. We've catered it, and all the kids and everybody come out. It's really fun. We've done it at the Rough Riders over here.
Nice.
A few different things like that. And that's always great because we actually have a lot of self-perform crews, about 10, 15 guys that work with us. And I remember the first time we had the family picnic, these guys have worked with each other before I was even around this company. They worked with each other 10, 15 years now. Mm-hmm. And the lead guy was like, I've never met these guys' families. This is so cool. Like they'd worked with each other for so long and never had, right? So I think that kind of helped with culture as far as them. I mean, they're like now meeting each other's families and they know more about each other and that kind of thing. So it's all these little, to me, culture or a lot about culture is just a family type environment.
Yeah.
I mean, you really want that. At the end of the day, it's construction, it's stressful,
Yep.
there's a lot of hard work. So we really purposely try to say, let's take a break, let's hang out, let's relax, let's get to know each other more.
Yeah.
It's just going to make work better. The work's always going to be there. I
Sure.
could work endlessly 24 hours a day. Everyone could 7 days a week, and it'll never stop being there. So it's like, let's take a break.
Yeah.
And let's team up and hang out and relax type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. What I hear you talking about is just building relationships, and that's so critical through the ebbs and the flows of the journey of running a business, and albeit construction business, where a lot of times there's factors that are out of your control with the timing. And so we were talking before this, just sometimes the struggle of not knowing when a new project's coming about, and so you have some lull time, or you're waiting for something. Like how does that impact culture? Like how do you try to maintain a steady culture in the midst of kind of all these ebbs and flows?
Yeah, I mean that is the trick, right? So we really had just a crazy 2022, and we hired a ton of people through that, and that's kind of where we learned some lessons on, like, okay, we hired in some people with great experience, don't fit our culture, and that kind of toxicity really hurt us, like not on just on the client level or with our subs, but it also hurt with like some of our younger guys that just started getting a bad mentality or whatever. So that's some things we learned as we're ramping up really hard, right? And so 2023 was definitely kind of a dip, kind of our first dip that we've had. We're battling through it. So through that, I now have employees that are valued employees that are calling me concerned, like, I'm not doing a lot right now. Like, do I need to be worried? No, you don't need to be worried. We have the jobs. They're just a couple months out, and I need you to stay here and run this job. Like, I would tell you if something's going on. And so then it's just them trying to understand, like, the leadership values them, right?
Yeah.
And we value you, and we want to keep you here. And even though we're in a lull period, we're going to come out of it. Like, this is kind of part of the cycles.
Sure.
But they may have worked at a place before that was like, the second that happens, you're cut. Goodbye. Like, we don't need you anymore. A few people have that. So, it's training them too, especially people that have only worked for this a year or two. Like, no, this is going to be a cycle, and we're all going to get through it together as a team.
Yeah.
So that's kind of some of what we're dealing with through those cycles, like you're saying.
Yeah, that was a challenge. I mean, just knowing that you're gonna come across those seasons where things are a little bit lighter, you're anticipating projects. So trying to maintain an energy, and a vibrancy to the company culture. One thing that I heard you talking about before we hopped in here was you guys would have these. You read a book is it quarter or?
Yeah, once a quarter.
Once a quarter.
Our executive team, it's about 5 people.
Okay.
We read a book. And, a quarter is a long time to read the book, so it gives us plenty of time to do it. And most books, we pull at least 1 or 2 things out of. And we're like, this is great. Let's implement this into the company. Or, this is, sometimes it's more of a personal takeaway. But we really get a lot of good information out of the books, and it's helping our executive team grow and therefore grow the company.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do here on this podcast, is just find, little tidbits that we can extract, or that any audience member could extract from these conversations,
right,
that can apply it to their company culture, or be that guiding light just as one person within their company.
Right.
Are there any key insights that you guys have had from those book readings that you can point to? And if not, it's okay.
I'm sure there are. So I guess, one I could tell you, there's a book called Turn the Ship Around.
Okay.
And you'd probably enjoy the book. It's a military-based book. It's a ship captain that wrote it, and there's a lot of good insights in there.
Yeah.
But he was a ship captain that decided to do things kind of atypical of the way the military does it. He was running his boat. He got like the worst boat in the Navy, and he turned it around to be one of the best. And he did it by doing things a little bit different than most people would in the military. the military a lot of times top down, like you're telling people below you, this is how I want it done, and so on and so on and so forth. He kind of flipped it, and he was teaching his men and women to say things like, I intend to do this, I intend to do that. And it's something we're trying to implement. It's tough, not exactly the same phrasing, but we're trying to get people, and it's actually something I learned from one of my first bosses, to not just show up with like, here's a problem, what do I do? Kind of show up with here's this problem, this is my solution, or how I'm going to do it. And then it's like, yeah, you can do that. And it builds them up, and it just kind of bolsters the whole team to be like, it gives these younger people more confidence, or even people that are just newer in their position more confidence to like, okay, I got this, I can do it. Or if I do need help, I can go ask questions and we can kind of work it out as a team.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of the big ones we've had. We've also really are trying to do, I didn't talk about this much culturally, but beyond just having fun and that kind of thing, we really culturally, I've said collaboration, but I mean that like to the nth degree. So when people fail or have problems or just mess up, I really try to make it a point to be like, let's just talk about it. Tell me, let's get in a room. Let's figure out, who cares if you messed up? We're going to learn from that. As long as you're learning from it, I got no problems. I've messed up a ton in my own career. I've messed a ton at Sirius, right? So it's just all about learning from it, but just let's be open and honest, and let's talk about it, and let's figure out how we get out of this jam, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think people appreciate that too. They're just like, okay, like I'm not in fear all the time.
Sure.
I know I made a mistake. Maybe I have a solution for it, but either which way, let's talk to the group and figure out what the best way to march forward is.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you guys are trying to approach be growth minded and take, some great insights from a book like that, which I have heard of that book, Turn the Ship, but I haven't read it. So I'm definitely going to pick that up.
It's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I think about how your background, I know you've been with some bigger general contractors. And so now, starting up a smaller GC as you guys are continuing to scale. What are some lessons or takeaways from your time at a bigger organization that you're trying to take into this newer company?
Yeah, I would say, obviously business planning, right? So we do this thing, and I think STC does too, right? Like EOS. And I know a lot of subcontractors are doing it as well. It's really great. I mean, it helps you with your business planning. It gives you when to meet, quarterly meetings, constantly being growth minded, setting goals, making those goals. Okay, you didn't achieve all the goals. That's okay. Like, let's figure out, maybe you had to pivot or something, right?
Yeah.
But I know that the company I worked before did a lot of these same things. So whenever I read that book and decided we were going to implement that, I was like, I've seen this in practice. Maybe it was a little different what they did, but I feel confident this is going to help us. And everyone in my executive team, we used to be 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. We've kind of started adding one a year here and there. They start seeing like, wow, we really are progressing things. We really are growing and changing. And I think that, I got that from the company I was at before, but implementing it in a smaller scale, I think that really helped. I know, again, being in a big contractor, you'd be in a trailer that might have 20 people in it. And that's like the size of my company right now. And I saw how a lot of the managers try to create collaboration, try to build a culture, at least in that trailer, right? So that everybody can work together, pull the rope in the same direction, that kind of thing. So, the company might be 2,000 people, but you're all like, basically at war to build this building for the next 2 years. So let's figure out how to all get along and work together. And I took a lot of lessons from that, just their strategies, trying to like break the monotony, get away from the stress for a minute, that kind of thing. I think that's some of the cultural things we try to do as well.
Yeah. For those that aren't aware of what EOS is, it's Entrepreneurial Operating System. And yeah, at SEC, we leverage that framework. And I know a lot of the companies we've talked to are on EOS, which is great. It's not that there's obviously a lot of different frameworks out there to run a business, but we've found that it's been a very simple, but systematic and scalable type framework that we can use. And, just because it's simple doesn't mean that it's easy, and so that's a concept that I continue to go back to. They talk about identifying rocks on a quarterly basis, where are essentially your goals or your initiatives for each quarter. How have you guys developed those rocks, or what have you kind of seen through your time working with EOS as far as your goals or rocks go?
No, I think some of the hardest part of EOS, and you can appreciate this, is that it tells you, say at your annual meeting or the first time you set it up, what is your 10-year vision? Okay, now that you've kind of painted that out, and it's hard, you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know, what am I going to do in 10 years? Now, knowing that, what's 3 years look like? And then you try to figure that out. And then you're like, okay, here's what 1 year looks like. And the point is, and you know this, is to like basically have a rock, that's what rocks are about, and be able to throw it so you can keep getting closer to that next goal, right? So I can get to the 1 year, so I can get to the 3 year, so I can get to the 10 year. So I think that breakdown is really great because it gives people this vision of like where we're going. And then from 1 year, you break it down into, okay, we're going to do this year. And then quarterly, we start chipping away at it. And it really, I mean, you make headway doing that. So I think that's been really great. And something I didn't even think to say till just now we were talking about it is we decided this year to basically have somewhat of like what do we call it? Like a town hall. And we basically presented this to the group. Like we hadn't really been sharing, we'd shared bits and pieces of what EOS was and how it works in the business planning, but we shared it to the group to kind of show them like, hey, there's a lot more going on in the background than you know. We're not just willy-nilly, like kind of stumbling through this. Like there's plans. We're thinking about this. If you have ideas, let us know. It might get into the main plans. Just to kind of let them know, because, like I said, last year was a little rocky, and just wanted to let them know, like, there's a lot of method to the madness. We're not just shotgunning this thing. So I think EOS helped with that. I mean,
Yeah.
I was able to show them, look, here's what we've been planning over the years, and here's what we've accomplished, and here's where we're going. So I think it helped.
I think one of the most beneficial things for EOS when you share with the team, like you're saying, is the ability to nest with that plan. And that's what I heard you talk about with like, okay, you know where you're going, like the 10-year, your guiding light is like going towards that 10-year goal. And then you got to break it down. And obviously there's a lot of different like milestone rocks in between there. But how we do it is we break it up into different teams, and each team has like a quarterly goal, and then like how does each team member nest within that rock. And so I think about when you share that information, it just gives everybody more awareness as how they fit into the big picture.
Right.
And then they can be more intentional with their approach, and how they fit in and integrate with the organization.
I agree. I do think that helps. How are they going to handle a client? Like, you need to handle the client, give them that excellent client experience, and be that guiding light. Just to kind of keep everything moving forward. I mean, we need the clients to be happy, so they refer us. So they go to do a second job, they want to use us, that kind of thing. And if they have bad experiences, they're not going to want that.
Yeah.
So I think that's just one example of everything that we're talking about. But I think us being more transparent with them helps them see, okay, this is where I fit in the puzzle.
Yeah, always tying it back to a core value. That's why, I mean, EOS on your main page, the vision traction organizer, right? You have the core values, which are really like the foundation of the whole document, which really drives, okay, where are we going to go? What are our goals? And then, tangibly, how are we going to behave as we're carrying out these goals? I always like that. That's kind of the fascinating component, I think, where leadership is so important, is that like, yeah, we have these goals, but like, here's how we're going to go about doing that. And it's kind of what you're speaking of.
Right.
So as we kind of wrap this up, Justin, there's a lot of different leaders that are listening to this, and kind of knowing what you do know now after your background experience. Is there any advice that you want to leave with the audience regarding how to cultivate a more positive workplace culture?
Yeah, I think some of the things I've said is like, if you can identify toxic people, either try to change them or they may need to move on. But then everybody else that's left, trying to be transparent, trying to let them feel like they can be a voice. They can come up with ideas. Leadership will listen to them. Because a lot of times the people on the ground are the ones that, hey, this could be more efficient, or we could do this better. And if they feel comfortable enough to bring an idea up, and sometimes they do, most of the time they do in our organization, then we'll implement if it makes sense. I'm all for change. I think that's important. So I think that just everyone be able to speak, collaborate, feel heard, That really helps your culture out.
Yeah, setting the stage and the environment for employees to feel comfortable doing that. And so I know that's what you're striving for. And I go back to seeing that guiding light or being a guiding light. I think that is such an excellent core value, and it's very deep, but it has so much application to the individual workers and then the organization to where you're going. And so we're excited and so grateful to partner with Sirius Building Company because you have these dynamics of a culture moving forward. And so just really appreciate you coming on here, Justin, and giving us some thoughts on company culture. And we look forward to seeing you out there.
Yeah, thanks. Really enjoyed it. And thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah.
God bless.
Good.